Get some! Woo! Drop it. All right, welcome to the Young Turks Power Panel. Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola, Francesca Fiorentini. We've got ourselves in a bit of a habituation here.
Indeed.
Franny's show is, of course, Habituation Room. You should check that out on our podcasting network, which, of course, you all know and love. That's where you could also get the Damage Report. It's John's show, and it's also in podcast form as well. All right, we've got a lot of updates for you guys. Tons of special counsels flying around. People who wanted special counselors are very upset about them, obviously. Okay, and Joe Manchin is continuing to cause trouble and is threatening nuclear trouble. So I don't mean literally nuclear, but almost.
Calm down, Representative Gabbard. It's gonna be okay.
One can hope.
But
yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so lots of news. So John, take it away.
Yeah, let's do that. Anyone else feel like since you don't have a special counsel investigating you that you're not one of the cool kids? I feel left out at this point.
Yeah, John, I don't blame you. I think you're right. I don't feel as special.
I know. Someday I'm gonna find some documents. I'm gonna
I mean, has he not bragged about it being a special counsel yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, I only have the best counsels, special counsels. I haven't gotten one counsel that isn't special yet. Okay, but in this case, maybe someone else too.
Yeah, and maybe in this case, he's not too happy about it. Okay, let's get serious and jump into the news, everyone. It looks like 2024 is gonna be fun, and it's gonna be fun fast, because as of just the second day of the year, January 2nd, we might have a Trump trial. That is when the special counsel, Jack Smith, if that is his real name, is pushing for the trial of Donald Trump to begin. And not only will the trial be starting early if he gets his way, but it's not gonna take that long. He's targeting it to last just 4 to 6 weeks, meaning that we could be wrapped up with this entire thing before Super Tuesday, long before the Republican National Convention, let alone the general election. So that's exciting. I'm excited, I imagine you're excited. This one guy is not super excited. He bleated, deranged Jack Smith has just asked for a trial in the Biden indictment to take place on January 2nd. The way the law works is if I say it's Biden's, he might go to jail. Just ahead of the important Iowa caucuses. Only an out-of-touch lunatic would ask for such a date 1 day into the new year and maximum election interference with Iowa. Such a trial, which should never take place due to my First Amendment rights and massive Biden corruption, should only happen, if at all, after the election. The same with the other fake Biden indictments, election interference. So, it's not up to Jack Smith, of course, to solely determine when the trial begins. This has apparently been sent to the judge, Judge Chaikin, so she will be the one who decides. Of course, Trump and his legal team, or what passes for a legal team, they'll have their opportunity to push for a date, which I'm estimating will be somewhere in the 2070s or so. And she will then have to decide based on those requests and of course the special circumstances that we're in. And while we're gonna be talking about the protective order hearing a little bit later on in the show, there were comments during that hearing from the judge where she indicated that the people deserve to have a quick resolution to this, considering how big of a circus it already is and is likely to become. So we don't know exactly when she will decide the trial should begin, but there is some reason to believe that she might be amenable to the special counsel's requests.
Yes, so we have this amazing situation that right around Super Tuesday, Donald Trump is either going to be headed towards the White House or headed towards the big house. And will he be arrested before the campaign is over? And is he going to complete the campaign from a prison cell? Well, that's not very likely. And the reason for that is because he's going to appeal, of course, if he loses. And those appeals will last to the point where he becomes president. Even if he's been convicted and the case is being appealed and he becomes president, since it is a federal case, he can immediately pardon himself and never go to jail or prison. So that's just the reality of what physically happens to Donald Trump. Now, on to the more important issue of the timing. Let me dispense of one of his arguments, because he loves to throw stuff up against the wall and see what lands, because he doesn't know, like, I don't know, I'm gonna make up 1,000 crazy things. This one, let's figure out which one MAGA believes, and then we'll run with that one, right? So among those great excuses, my favorite was 1 day after the new year begins. Why is that relevant? I mean,
people still hungover.
His Christmas tree's still up, Cenk. Gosh, wait till he takes the Christmas tree down in the stockings. Melania is very excited, by the way, about decorating Mar-a-Lago, and then we can start the trial.
So good point, Franny. That's why I was so upset with January 6th, because it was just 5 days after the beginning of the new year. No, that really wasn't the issue, Donald. Okay, on the other hand, look, I wish the timing wasn't like this. I think the timing sucks. So if you're a partisan and you're on the Democratic side, or you just don't like Trump, maybe you think the timing is great politically because it happens right as everybody's voting in the primaries and he's on trial and he's going to have to attend his trial, presumably, maybe, or be on the campaign trail. And this is terrible news theoretically, although the trial is actually helping him in the Republican primaries, at least for now, but it might not when they start seeing the evidence. So do I wish that Merrick Garland had acted non-glacially and appointed a special counsel like 2 years before he did? Yes. I don't know why he waited so long, and I think it was a terrible, terrible decision to wait this long. This trial should have happened a long time ago. That being said, at this point, what are you gonna do? You're gonna delay the trial for a year and a half so that Trump could have his campaign and his election, and then but Jack Smith kind of hinted at this in what he put out today, and I think that's right. The people deserve to know before the election.
Yep.
And by the way, in either direction. Imagine that they go, because remember, this innocent until proven guilty. Now, a lot of the evidence is already public and overwhelming. But imagine they go in, and by the way, it's I think more overwhelming in the documents case, which is going to be past Super Tuesday. This is the case about the coup attempt on January 6th. So the documents case is more overwhelming. This one, it's not impossible for Trump to win. I mean, first of all, he could have a couple of MAGA guys on the jury. Then, boom, he's gonna win. They're just gonna call it a hung jury, and they're gonna, if it's in the 37% of the Republican base that's MAGA, in polling they say they will never disagree with Trump. So you just need one MAGA guy, and you're not gonna get a conviction, right? But let's say he wins fair and square. That's super relevant to the election, isn't it? Like that takes the albatross off his neck. So either way, people should know before the election, and that is a normal time to have a trial. And he's like, oh, how could we possibly get ready by January 2nd? It makes it sound like we're in December. We're in August. You have a lot of time, Franny.
Don't you think the people should know if you are a criminal or not? Don't you want to prove your innocence before the election? Like if he were innocent, that's exactly what he would want to do. But he knows he's not, and that's why he's deflecting with all of this. Also, remember how he bragged? Like he constantly brags about every indictment. He's got his polling goes up when it's really just thanks to DeSantis being such an utter failure. But it's like, dude, it'll help you. It'll be good for your ratings, your clout. And here's what I have to say about ratings. I do think it sucks that this will not be televised. It doesn't seem like the trial will be televised. We're just gonna get those awful courtroom sketches. So I kind of feel for Hollywood executives right now because the strike is probably gonna last until the new year, sadly, but I think it is. It's an existential situation here. They're not moving an inch. They want nothing more than a televised trial to distract everybody from the fact that they will not pay writers and actors. But no, we're just gonna have again, you're gonna have to do one of those flip books for like the courtroom trial where you just sort of watch him, move. You guys remember Flip? Anyone old here?
I do. That's older technology, not common these days. But yeah, it would be great if it was televised. He's indicated that he wants it to be. I don't think that he actually would want it to be. And the Dems say that they want it to be. I don't know about Jack Smith specifically, but some Democrats in Congress do want it. But anyway, yeah. Look, on the timing, I will say, I think both of you have pointed out that we cannot get to the general election without people knowing, but also I don't care as much, but Republican voters deserve to know. And if they're gonna know, shouldn't they know before Super Tuesday? I mean, when things are largely locked up at that point, if you were DeSantis or any of the other gaggle of weirdos that they have running, you would be so happy to hear that at least there's a chance we would know by Super Tuesday. And the Republican Party should think about if they waited and it turns out that he gets convicted and it turns out that we actually for some reason live in a country where that matters to the base and no one's gonna support him. Well then, if it's a month until the election, then that is really unfair to the Republican Party who should be able to choose a different candidate. So we cannot be past the RNC at that point. They need to have at least an opportunity to replace them with, look, I'm gonna say Jeb Bush. Honestly, I think that Jeb deserves another chance. He went away for a long time. But anyway, joking aside, it really does make the most sense. In the terrible situation we're in, this is the best possible outcome.
Yeah, and so let's go back to the judge for a second because she's actually presided over a bunch of the January 6th cases, and her proclivity is to move fast. So that is good news if you want this trial both to happen and to be concluded as quickly as possible. Imagine, by the way, that it's concluded before Super Tuesday and Donald Trump is acquitted. My God, and by the way, that's a real, as I explained earlier, that's a real possibility, in which case it's going to be manna from heaven for Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yep.
So keep it real on that front, and he could get acquitted rightly or wrongly. And acquitted doesn't mean that you didn't do it. It means it's just they didn't have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. All you need is about 2% doubt to get acquitted. So, but if that happens, Trump is going to throw a Mardi Gras a little bit late, right? And they're going to have floats, and the Republicans are going to go nuts, etc. So look, I would want, if it was Biden that was in a similar situation. For example, Biden is like, they'll never move fast enough. But if they were to say to me, you can resolve the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden connection by Super Tuesday, right? And said, that way we'll know for sure if Joe Biden was connected to Hunter Biden's cheesy maneuverings or he's not connected. I would say, I would like to know before.
Yep.
Okay, because number one, if he's not connected, I want him cleared. If he is connected and you actually prove it in a court of law and a jury convicts him, I don't want him as a Democratic candidate. No way, not even close. I don't want him as president. I don't want him as anything. But I'm not MAGA, so I haven't lost my mind. So I can actually make independent judgment calls on candidates, as opposed to MAGA, who's like, Trump must be right about everything. We must protect Trump. Truth doesn't matter at all. Goddamn evidence. Now, you know I'm MAGA, I know your feelings are hurt, but hold on, I'm gonna prove it. I don't know why you're not excited about this. I've said this on a number of occasions. MAGA should be thrilled. Everybody bring their mules. You get to prove that the last election was stolen while we're in the middle of this election. It's perfect for you because this case falls apart the second you show that the election was actually stolen by Joe Biden, because he's being charged about lying about a stolen election. If the election was in fact stolen, then he's by definition not lying. You win the case immediately. And I know you have the 2,000 mules, and I know you have a Kraken, and I know you've got all sorts of dumps lying around, and you've got all of these things that you guys have promised. By the way, MAGA, why aren't you livid at Trump? In all of his wild, crazy defenses, he's never once suggested that his defense is going to be, the election was stolen, I'm gonna prove it in court, and I'm gonna win this case. I mean, look, kidding aside, guys, if you're not in the MAGA cult, you know that what I'm saying is super obvious. And you know that Trump doesn't have one piece of evidence because he already lost 60 cases on the so-called stolen election, right? But MAGA doesn't know. They like the overwhelming majority of MAGA genuinely believes that Trump won that election. So to those MAGA guys, I'm being earnest with you guys. Wouldn't you want the opportunity to prove it in court? Wouldn't this be perfect for you? And why aren't you mad at Trump that he's not making that case that you want him to make, that you wanted him to make for 3 years? And isn't it weird that he's not making that case? After all the blah, 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 when he's on air, he goes on media, oh yeah, the election was stolen, it was stolen, I didn't lose, I'm not a smart little bitch, no, I didn't lose. Okay, perfect, Jack Smith delivered this present to you with a bow on top. You get to go in court and give your evidence. Everybody bring the goddamn mules, right? Ride in on your 2,000 mules, right? And prove it. And MAGA, now you're beginning to understand, you don't have any evidence. That's why you're not looking forward to this. Trump's not looking forward to this, because you're gonna go to court and he's gonna get humiliated because the election was not stolen, and he's an incredible liar. And unfortunately, and I actually do feel bad for you. I'm not playing, and it's not gonna make you any happier, but it sucks that you got conned by a legendary con man. Franny.
They don't care. I mean, like, I love the overture, Cenk, but we all know they don't care, because you might be in a cult if you don't care about evidence, you just care about your feelings, and you feel like it was stolen. You feel like dead and undocumented, simultaneously dead and undocumented people voted. That's all that matters. It's a cult, and like, you cannot reason with the cult, even if they were to somehow prove evidence. You think Fox is gonna like cover? I mean, they would, I guess, they'd have to, but Fox won't cover it. They won't find out about it, and the cult rolls on.
Yeah. By the way, if you were to get 2,000 mules together, do you have any idea how big the dumps would be?
It'd be massive, just like Trump said.
Anyway, we have to quickly turn to the other side of this. All this week, we've been waiting to find out, will Donald Trump be muzzled? No, sorry. It's still the second part of the first block, the protective order. Apologies. We'll get to you, Hunter Biden. Okay, calm down, buddy. You got your special counsel. You're on top of the world. Don't worry. Anyway, all this week we've been waiting to find out, will Donald Trump, in fact, be muzzled when it comes to the January 6th case? Or will he be free to speak freely about it and likely intimidate witnesses and encourage people to try to murder judges and things like that? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Now, I'm gonna catch you up. We'll find out exactly what happened. Last Friday, he posted this on Truth Social. "If you go after me, I'm coming after you," which you could make the case that that's a threat. Anyway, Jack Smith wanted to make that case, and he filed for a protective order that would have limited the way that Donald Trump can speak about this case while the case is pending. And District Judge Tanya Chutkan started to consider this, allowed Donald Trump and his legal team to send in their concept of how this should work. And finally, we fast forward to today and we have the actual hearing. And so during the hearing, I'm gonna jump to graphic 6, she referenced the Supreme Court's 1966 ruling that found Sam Shepard, who was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife, did not have a fair trial because of a, quote, carnival atmosphere surrounding his case. Quote, "The more a party makes inflammatory statements about this case, the greater the urgency will be that we proceed to trial quickly." Now, I think the case is a little bit different in that Donald Trump is the carnival barker. He's the one who would make it a carnival atmosphere. But anyway, she did agree with some of what Trump wanted, some of what the Jack Smith team wanted. And so we do have a bit of a mixed bag. So she agreed with the proposed order from Trump's legal team, who argued that only sensitive information should be kept under wraps. The Trump team's order would not cover the disclosure of non-sensitive material. Now, of course, we're gonna have to find out exactly what qualifies as sensitive or not. But this means that Donald Trump is not gonna be stopped from just blanket talking about anything having to do with the case. It will be certain sorts of material that he's not allowed to discuss. But Chutkan did side with prosecutors on several details, including a request that all recordings, transcripts, and reports of witness testimony should be considered sensitive information, so we have that. She also accepted prosecutors' request that Trump's lawyers review any notes he takes about sensitive material to ensure that they don't include personally identifiable information that would allow him to effectively dox the witnesses during the trial. She also denied a request from Trump's team to broaden the number of people who could have access to the discovery material. Also importantly, if Donald Trump is reviewing the material, and just try to imagine him like going through a bunch of documents, it's ridiculous, but hypothetically it could happen. He will not be allowed to have any electronic devices with him while he does that. He's not gonna have his phone to take pictures or to do audio notes or anything like that, and the notes again will be reviewed afterwards. So a little bit of what Trump wants, a lot of probably what Trump doesn't want. What do you think?
So I was surprised that Jack Smith even asked for the protective order, and I'll tell you why. Because what you don't want to do is muzzle Donald Trump if you're the prosecutor. If you're the prosecution, you want Donald Trump talking as much as humanly possible, because that brother's got verbal diarrhea, and he's going to accidentally confess 2,000 times, as he's already done, right? And so you want him to keep on talking, because you could use all of that. That evidence can and will be used against you in a court of law, right? And so you all know that. So why are they doing this? Well, I have a theory. My theory is that they are trying to protect one particular witness that is going to be stunning, and that's Mark Meadows. And so we all know that Mike Pence has already talked to the prosecutors. People keep talking about Mike Pence, but we know roughly what he's gonna say. Trump already knows it, the public knows it. I don't think that Pence is the concern at all. I get it, they could be worried about a specific piece of evidence that's going to leak, but really how much of a difference does that make? Because the trial is gonna come up relatively soon anyway, right? But the one witness that people don't know whether he is an actual witness in this case and will make a difference or not is Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. And they have kept that top secret. He is not among the unindicted co-conspirators. There's just no information about him at all when, and of course, he would be a very, very material witness in the January 6th case, since he was a chief of staff at that point, okay? So, but will these protective orders work? 0% chance. The minute that Donald Trump sees Mark Meadows in any document, he's gonna go, Mark Deranged Meadows is the worst person in the world. He's an idiot, and that's why I hired him, just like everybody else I hired. And he's a traitor, and he should be hung up. Did I say that? No, I'm saying a maybe could be. I kind of liked it. Okay, so it's not gonna work, and that's why part of I think why the judge is threatening. If you noticed, if you paid careful attention to her last couple of sentences there. You blab about this, she's not gonna be able to put Trump in prison like she would be able to do with a regular defendant if the defendant is in contempt of court, right? So she's saying, well, if you blab about the witnesses, then I guess we're gonna have to have the trial quicker because then I gotta protect the witnesses and I gotta protect the evidence. So we gotta get to court before you taint the jury pool. And so that is a significant threat because Trump doesn't want the trial to be earlier. He wants it to be as late as possible.
Yeah, there's definitely a threat there. And Trump is also he's already turned that on Chutkan, but he's gonna be even worse. And I'm reminded of the moment during the Alex Jones trial where they were like, is this a cartoon of the judge presiding over your defamation case, you stupid idiot? And he's like, no, maybe, And so that's gonna happen here tenfold. That was the best part of that trial. But the other part of, and sadly that was televised, or excitingly that was televised, and this will not be. I guess the last thing I was gonna say is there's real danger here, right? This is a week when it kind of just like washed over us. But yeah, man in Utah threatening Biden and was shot by the FBI, doopy-doo. Like all of the people who may or may not be named are like at risk, including anyone else. Right, so it is another argument to wrap this up quickly rather than prolong it, or prolong it so much so that everyone forgets. I don't know, but there's literal political violence to back up every single one of these ridiculous bleats that Trump is issuing.
Agreed.
Yep. All right, we got to take the break, guys. Believe it or not, more special counsels when we return because Hunter Biden has met one as well, and so I'm sure the Republicans are celebrating because they called for. Well, let's find out when we come back. Woo! All right, back on TYT here. Let's go to our members first. Chocolate Addicted Dragon writes in, power up dragons. Let our thunderous roars of truth and Trump being dumped in prison for the rest of his life. Let's make America safer again.
Ooh,
I like that message.
I like
okay. Chris Duran writes in, hey, Cenk, John, and Francesca, could you give a shout out to my mom, Roberta? She's a new member of TYT, TDR, Ring of Fire community, all of which she found all on her own. And just past 4.5 years fighting and crushing stage 4 lung cancer like a goddamn champion. She's the definition of too strong. So Roberta, You're awesome. Welcome to our community. We appreciate you. Way to be a dragon and a TYT member and all of that. So that's great.
Welcome, Roberta.
Yes. And I like that you like Ring of Fire too. That's generally in the network, and I believe a dragon would come out of a ring of fire. So it all makes sense. America needs a reboot, writes in. I'll call this panel TDR, the Monday remix. Fair, because Francesca and John are of course on Monday's edition of Damage Report. Cenk's left tricep of fury says, Cenk, please let us know if you're going to do a book signing in South Florida. I think you should do a book signing tour, just saying. I hear you, brother. We're thinking about it. I've got the one event in Powerhouse Arena in Brooklyn on September 22nd. You could reserve your place at tyt.com/events. We're thinking about other cities, but we're not sure yet because they tell me that the book tour is a little outdated, but I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, we're thinking about it. Jonathan says they have the Kraken, the crackpot, and the crackhead all in one person.
Release the Kraken.
And the crackhead. And the crackpot. All right, Anna, your hair looks great. Dragon wrote on Twitch, yo, yo, yo. I was amused by it, that's why I read it. Perfcell wrote in homesick, but I get to catch the show live, making lemonade from lemons. I like that attitude. And Maudible69 says, I'm John Burgundy.
Release the Kraken.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Franny, and John with you guys. Also, Sweet Dwayne Dragon, who gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube and said, it's Friday, sharing the love. Thank you, we appreciate it. And Lauren McCrae, who only gifted 50 Young Turks memberships.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yes, you are, and we encourage it. Lauren, you're amazing. Gosh. We appreciate you so much, and so do other people in the community, because Zarkoth wrote in immediately, whomever gifted me a membership is awesome. And you are right. Yeah. They are awesome. And I like the fact that you're grammatically correct for no reason on YouTube. Okay, all right, Johnny Pie.
Yes, no, not me, Merrick Garland, go.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to announce the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel, consistent with the Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified the designated members of each House of Congress of the appointment. In a July 2023 letter to Congress, Mr. Weiss said that he had not to that point requested special counsel designation. On Tuesday of this week, Mr. Weiss advised me that in his judgment, his investigation had reached a stage at which he should continue his work as a special counsel, and he asked to be so appointed. Upon considering his request, as well as the extraordinary circumstances relating to this matter, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint him as special counsel.
So yes, announced earlier today, we have another special counsel, for once not investigating Donald Trump. This is David Weiss, who's going to now, as special counsel, continue overseeing this investigation into Hunter Biden, which obviously from the point of view of the right wing is good news. They've been asking for this, which is why they're all very, very happy today. So good news for them. Not everyone is so happy about this, because while this could be seen as like sort of one arm of the Biden administration showing that, we're gonna take this Hunter Biden thing totally seriously, fully investigate it, all of that stuff. 1 hour before that announcement, spokesman for the White House, Ian Sams, dropped an extremely strongly worded memo, 1,100 words attacking the probe. It was titled, 1 year since Comer vowed credibility, how's that going? which has strong like senior thesis vibes. But anyway, so he attacks James Comer, who Sam says has told big lies and small ones, has quote, stooped to new lows from allowing explicit images to be displayed at a congressional hearing, that was of course Marjorie Greene, to lamenting that President Biden's deceased son, Beau Biden, wasn't prosecuted while he was still alive, which is insane. He's also quote, hidden evidence from the public and the committee minority, ignores when witnesses have contradicted his false allegations, and still insists that an individual who has been indicted for arms trafficking and working as a Chinese agent has the credibility to serve as a witness in his probe. So look, that's a good sort of summary of some of what has been so ridiculous about this investigation so far and Comer's own personal, just humiliating behavior. There's a lot more, we can't go through all of it, but we do have a special counsel now, whether Ian Sams or anyone else likes it or not, we've got that. So what do you think? How is the political world gonna react to this?
Okay, so first of all, I'm sure the Republicans are thrilled. They've been asking for the special counsel for so long. Wait, I'm getting word in that no, as usual, they're crying and crying hysterically. They're sobbing on every outlet as we speak right now. How could they do a special counsel for? You guys, I remember you asking thousands of times for a special. In fact, half the Republicans didn't even get the memo. Chuck Grassley's like, all right, finally a special counsel. They're like, no, Chuck, no. Chuck, this is all for politics. We don't have any evidence.
Right.
You know, what are you doing?
Right.
We were just kidding about the special counsel. Now that we have one, it's a new opportunity to cry. Remember, Republican strategy only has two parts. One is cry, the other is lie. So we just cry and lie, cry and lie, cry and lie. Chuck, okay, so look, why are they mad? And remember, John just read you the statement from the White House. So the White House is mad, and James Comer investigating Hunter Biden is mad. Why are they both mad? Because the White House is like, this is a load of BS. You're about to charge him with like the 2 weakest charges in America. A gun charge, which is like, oh, you didn't fill out the right permit or had a typo or something in it, which every Republican in the country would be livid if they were charged with,
God, yeah.
or if Trump was charged with that charge. They'd be, what is the deep state, right? And then like some tiny tax charge. By the way, I'm happy with both those charges, more than the Republicans. Like, hey, if you have a violation of some gun laws or some tax laws, have at it, Hoss, prosecute them, right? But if you did that to a Republican, if you did it to Trump, I mean, the tax evasion that Trump has done compared to Hunter Biden is about 1,000-fold. And when you charge Trump with that, like as they are in New York, partly evading taxes and wrong business dealings, they're like, Donald Trump can evade all the taxes in the world. Did Hunter Biden evade taxes for $5? Go get him, but not with this special counsel. All right, so finally, let me tell you why the Republicans are pretending to be upset now. So they're saying, oh, we were just about to call in Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Weiss, this prosecutor, into our made up hearings. I mean, very important hearings, which we presented no evidence. And I mean, a lot of insinuations / where there's smoke, there's fire, except there's no fire, it's just our smoke. We were gonna have them in, but now because he's a special counsel, we can't have them testify. And this is all a smoke screen, if you will, by the Biden team to have his own son prosecuted. Okay, if you say so, Franny.
I don't know what to make of this. I mean, in part, I go to like the NPR brain that sort of says, special counsel, it must be as bad as Donald Trump trying to overturn the election and keep classified documents. You know, in sort of the broad American mindset, it puts, two ridiculously small charges on equal footing with massive charges, right? Really important ones. So there's a little bit of that, and I don't know if I'm getting like James Comey flashback vibes from Merrick Garland, as you know, he feels like he's potentially doing this to appease Republicans who you've just laid out very, I think, astutely, do not care, will not care. There's nothing that Merrick Garland could do to help them, right? I mean, in fact, if anything, this makes it even more partisan because it's a special counsel appointed by Merrick Garland, who was appointed by Joe Biden, you know, who works for Joe Biden or supposedly, right? It's like, so I don't know how to make political heads or tails of it, but it just feels like, well, Let's just keep it going, just like her emails.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I'll say one last quick thing about it. Merrick Garland, if there's a nuclear holocaust, he should definitely be the one to announce it, because no one will panic. He delivers things in such a dry, boring way that he was like, "Oh, nuclear holocaust coming up. We're all likely going to die." Everybody's like, "Oh, it's no big deal." Okay, and they think this is like the super tough guy villain who's like picking sides. He wouldn't pick sides if his life depended on it. He's like, I don't know. Okay, let's prosecute them both. I mean, evidence. I don't know. I don't want to make a decision. And that's why he's waited so long on. And they're like, okay, last thing. They say special counsel, that we hate that he appointed one, even though we wanted one. So why do you hate it? Maybe potentially the timing, as we just explained. But he waited too long. But he also waited too long on prosecuting Donald Trump, and you guys love that, right? We were like, the left was like, prosecute him already, prosecute him, right? And America was like, I don't know. So, like, make up your mind. Did you want Merrick Garland to prosecute everyone right away, or wait until this time? So, but nope, they always want to have their cake and eat it too. Merrick Garland should have gone quicker or not at all on, Donald Trump, but he should have waited till after the election, or waited till after the election for Donald Trump. But Hunter Biden had to happen at the exact right window that they wanted, because this would have been too early and this would have been too late, and this is the area where they wouldn't have cried at all. I don't believe you. No matter when Merrick Garland did a special counsel for Hunter Biden, 98% of Republican politicians would have cried.
Yeah. As we leave this segment, just a hypothetical question to the conservatives in the audience. So is this election interference? They're doing a special counsel of a member of the family of the leading Democratic candidate. I mean, he's way ahead of any other Democrats. This seems like election interference to me.
And he's the current president, right as we head into, I mean, my God, the trial could happen right around Super Tuesday, okay? So obviously election interference, because you agreed to it a second ago when it was about Donald Trump, right? In fact, you screamed your heads off about it a second ago. But when it's Hunter Biden, not only do you not think it's election interference, but you think that he should have gotten what, 2 special counsels, 8 special counsels? I don't, like, it's hard to keep up with what your tiers are about, right? Like you have this incredible entitlement complex and victimhood complex. You're always the victims, and you're always entitled to be above the law, and everybody else should be under your feet, okay? So, but make up your mind on what you want to cry about. I don't think it's too much to ask about.
They're carrying tears, Jank. They're motivated by privilege, and they make no sense. It's just Karen tears, okay? She'll figure out what she's crying about once the cops arrive. But I think that is a brilliant point about, yeah, is this election interference? And I just have one note, because the White House was mad. That was a very mad statement. You want to see them get mad when it comes to like income inequality and climate change. But no, mad when they're defending, obviously, Hunter Biden. So I think it would have been fun just to have them, instead of that statement, just like cut and paste Trump's bleats and just be like, election interference. You know, the way they did with Marjorie Greene's, FDR. Or no, Lyndon B. Johnson speech. Yeah. Do that.
Deranged David Weiss. Anyway. Okay, well, look, we are burning hours, so we're gonna have to take our second break. But when we come back, Joe Manchin might be leaving the Democratic Party, which many of us have wished for, but not like this. We'll see after this.
All right, back on TYT. Shindig Eats writes in on YouTube Super Chat. I need to stop drinking liquids while watching. I almost spit out liquid 3 times already due to laughter. TYT is always cracking me up. John as Trump kills me every time. Thanks for the laughs, guys. You're not alone. People love that impression.
Brett was mocking it on the show this morning.
In fact, Christopher Big Bear writes in, hey John, my son said that your Trump voice was the best he has ever heard, so don't listen to Brett.
That kid has taste.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Frank Rockefeller, a resident conservative, wrote in, innocent until proven guilty, which by the way, Frank, we said as well. Prove his guilt in front of a neutral jury and a non-politically invested judge. In other words, you're gonna cry anyway, right? So he's like, I want a neutral jury, that's why I wanna go to West Virginia, where I only won by 40 points. Frank, you'd love that, right? And you'd call that a neutral jury. Get out of here, you know that you guys, like what's a perfectly neutral jury? Where are we gonna go?
ChatGPT.
Okay, and what's a perfectly neutral judge? Oh, by the way, Frank, did you complain about the Trump-appointed judge down in Florida? Are you gonna write another super chat about how you're livid that judge is not neutral because she was appointed by Trump and is a diehard MAGA? I don't see you complaining about that. Okay, Evo Women writes in, I think it's super important for this federal January 6th trial to be televised, both for history and truth's sake. There's a text in the TYT Discord channel, campaign for change to send to Congress. I love how active you guys are on TYT Discord, so keep it going. Killjoy 100 says, Cenk, it's now time for another. Is it now time for another constitutional convention? Can we actually fix this in my lifetime? It is definitely time for a convention. It's actually technically not called a constitutional convention, convention of the states. We definitely need it. wolf-pac.com. Go look into that right now. They were working on it. And Matt Gates on a white Ford Bronco says, Team YT may be the main dish, but Francesca Fiorentina is the special sauce that brings out the perfect umami flavor that keep people coming back for more. Tip your host, folks.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
That's very sweet. You don't have to tip us. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Franny, and Dragon with a Girl Tattoo, one of our members who wrote in, Crying and Lying sounds like a country music song. I like that, and we might turn it into one. All right.
Yeah, try John. Crying and lying in a small town. Am I right?
That was.
Am I right? Anyway, let's talk about Joe Manchin.
They tried it a lot in a small town, actually, but anyways. All right, go ahead, John.
Let's do it.
I just can't. I can't accept either party, to be honest with you. Right
so
now.
Why don't you become an independent? Why don't you say, you know what? You've said many times that you're not like the Democrats today or the National Democratic Party. You're not like the National Republican Party. Why not just say, you know what? I'm going to be an independent. You thought about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you going to do it?
Because, well, I'm thinking seriously. What's the best for me? I have to have peace of mind, basically.
That's Joe Manchin on a radio show in West Virginia talking about what we all know that he's thinking about. Maybe just end this charade of being a Democrat and go independent. Here's more.
The brand has become so bad. The D brand and R brand. In West Virginia, the D brand, because it's nationally branded. It's not the Democrats in West Virginia. It's the Democrats in Washington or the Washington policies of the Democrats. You've heard me say a million times, I'm not a Washington Democrat.
You're thinking seriously. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to understand.
Yeah.
So you're thinking seriously about becoming an independent?
I would think very seriously about that. I've been thinking about that for quite some time. I haven't made any decisions whatsoever on any of my political direction. I want to make sure that my voice is truly an independent voice.
Again, there have been a lot of cons, a lot of like scams that have been run on the American people. But the way that politicians like Joe Manchin, with a massive assist from the media, including big outlets like the New York Times, have been able to define independent the way they want it to be is so absurd. That he wants to be sure that his voice is independent. What the hell is that supposed to mean? We know what he wants you to think that it means, but it's not independent. It's closely tied to the interests of those with the most in society. That's all it is. That's all it'll ever be. It is the farthest thing from independent you can possibly imagine. But look, I guess we should give him credit because he's finally willing to stop pretending that he has any sort of like ideological attachment to any of the values that the Democratic Party pretends to have. And he is just going to be there to make sure that we extract every ounce of coal, every drop of oil, and cut every bit of taxes that America has.
Yeah, so look, to John's point, they also ruined the word moderate because it used to mean somebody who's in the middle of the country politically. But Joe Manchin's positions are incredibly radical, like he's against paid family leave. Only 16% of the country is against paid family leave. That is a radical position, but it's radically corporate. So media doesn't call it radical, they call it moderate. How could it be moderate to be against 84% of the country? And I can go through 24 pieces of policy where Joe Manchin has, and they're mainstream, they're the policies you guys have all heard, where Joe Manchin has an insanely radical pro-corporate position. It's not a right-wing position, it's definitely not a left-wing position. It's just a position that helps his donors. And it is radical almost every time. But he's like, I don't know, the Republicans and Democrats are on two extremes and I'm in the middle. And everybody in the media goes, oh, that's so true, let's all lie on his behalf. Hey, every writer in the New York Times, lie out for Joe Manchin. Everybody on CNN, lie on behalf of Joe Manchin. Let's all call him a moderate when he's nowhere near a moderate, right? So he's how a Democratic brand is ruined. And that's actually has some validity to it. Who ruined it? Joe Manchin. Why is it ruined? So part of the reason why it's ruined is because, and everybody will admit this, and Republicans say it too, because the Democrats are seen as too elitist. In fact, that's the main thing Republicans say, and the main reason that why the Democratic brand is in significant trouble. It used to be the party of the average guy, workers, laborers, etc. Now it's seen as the party of elites, right? Well, how did it get there? It got there through politicians like Joe Manchin, who took corporate donor money and sold out the average guy and said, oh, you want higher wages? No, I'm gonna make sure that we kill higher minimum wage so you have lower wages because my elitist donor prick friends told me to, and I'm a Democrat. And they ruined the brand that way. And now Manchin, after lighting the brand on fire, goes, well, look at that, I guess it's on fire. Oh, I'm getting out of this house, right? Now, finally, think about the difference in how Joe Manchin is dealt with by Democratic leadership, let alone mainstream media, versus progressives. If progressives ever go 1 inch outside of what Biden and Pelosi wants, they take their head off. They're ruining unity in the party. These radical progressives arguing for things that 84% of Americans want. It's outrageous, arguing for higher wages and healthcare, all the things that would help Americans. How dare they? They are not listening to leadership and they're destroying the Democratic Party. Manchin goes, hey, Joe Biden, here's 85% of your agenda. I just lit it on fire. I just destroyed what is theoretically your core agenda. And on top of that, I might leave the party and I'm talking crap about how awful the Democratic Party is. And by the way, I might even run against you for president after you gave me the Mountain Valley Pipeline. That's gonna make me personally rich. Bam, and he slaps him across the face. And he goes, hey Joe, what are you gonna do about it? Sit there and bleed all day? And you know what Democratic leadership says? Not a word. So the same guys who took off progressive heads for disagreeing about 5% of stuff, when Joe Manchin destroys their policy and destroys their party, they don't say a word. Why? Think about why. I mean, if somebody did to me what Joe Manchin has done to Joe Biden, I would have a strong response. You might even say, hey, Cenk, you're overdoing it, man. Jesus Christ, right? Well, you know what Joe Biden did after they passed that watered down Inflation Reduction Act that was stripped clean by Joe Manchin? Joe Biden, that loser, handed the pen that he signed the act with to who? Joe Manchin. You know why, guys? Because the whole thing is theater. Almost everyone in politics is lying to you, and almost everyone in media is lying to you. The reality is Joe Manchin and Joe Biden totally agree. They have the same exact donors, and a lot of those donors are also shared by establishment Republicans like Mitch McConnell. They all agree they were always going to do the same thing, give the donors exactly what they want, and the rest is theater with nothing but magic tricks and illusions about being moderate or independent or Democrat or Republican.
I mean, they do worse than say nothing too. I mean, Joe Biden says things like, oh, Kyrsten Sinema is a tough cookie. Oh yeah, that Joe Manchin is a great negotiator. I mean, he praises them. He praises them for being beholden to corporations and only doing anything if they personally can enrich themselves and their families. Never mind the water, air, and planet, right? As in the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is really important to put out. But here's the thing, Joe Manchin's not switching parties. He's not switching parties, are you kidding me? Because it's so perfect. He has the president by the balls and Joe Biden's willingly handed them over. Why would you switch parties and just become yet another Republican or just an independent? No, you've got leverage. The entire place just rolls out the red carpet for you and your stupid yacht. And so, or whatever it's called, Sundown or something. So there he is. And he can go back to West Virginia, even though he's wildly unpopular, and basically say, I have the president by the balls. I'm a Democrat, but not that Democrat. And look at what I've delivered for mostly me, but a little bit for you. But anyway, and peace out. So he's full of it. And this whole flirtation with leaving the Democratic Party, why would you do that when you can stay in it? You can berate them. And as Cenk pointed out, nothing happens to you. Nothing happens.
Yeah. The worst that ever happens to him is occasionally a young person will, like protest near him. And then the media freaks out on behalf of the great moderate. Anyway, we got only a little bit more time, but I think we have one spicy story to cover with what remains. So everyone buckle up for this. Marjorie Greene's 2020 campaign manager, as well as 2 other individuals, have been ordered to pay more than $50,000 to restitution and penalties for their roles in operating a fake, phony, made-up charity that was announced after the tragedy in East Palestine. They set it up supposedly to raise money to benefit people, the community that was being devastated by the tragedy, by the toxins in the air, in the water, in the land that were making people sick, that were killing animals. They raised a bunch of money and they didn't do what they said they were going to do with it. So we have this announcement of a settlement by Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. So in this, Isaiah Wortman and Luke Mahoney of WAMA Strategies must pay more than $22,000 in restitution to a local food bank, as well as $3,000 in investigative costs and fees to Yost's office. So basically what happened is they set up the Ohio Clean Water Fund, collected nearly $149,000 from donors in the aftermath of the February 3rd derailment. And what they did was they did a bunch of text message fundraising solicitations. They sent mass text messages to people, and a bunch of people, to their credit, desperately wanted to help. Like that was in the news for weeks. Lots of people wanted to make sure that the residents of East Palestine got what they needed. And unfortunately, some of them tried to help through this phony made up charity. And so they said they were gonna give the money to the Second Harvest Food Bank. They gave only about $10,000 and pocketed the rest. And I know, look, any charity is gonna have operating costs and things like that. You can critique how much they put into their own operations, but they gave much less than 10% of what they raised. This was clearly a scheme to take advantage of the fact that lots of people were horrified by this tragedy and they wanted to personally enrich themselves. So basically the sort of grifting that we see every day, including from people like Marjorie Greene, just in a slightly different form.
Yeah, look, I think the word grifting gets thrown around a lot and I'm a little bit guilty of it myself. But this is an actual verifiable, proven grift. Give money to help people in a disaster. Just kidding, I'm gonna keep 90%, over 90% of it. So it just, not only is it stealing, it's stealing from the people who need it the most and the people who were the nicest enough to give. And so look, I know that unfortunately there's a lot of grifts on a lot of sides these days, okay? But when it comes to Republicans, I'm sorry, but I think you're nuts to give to any Republican because they keep robbing you blind. And I mean, if you're good with it, it's up to you, man. It's a free country. But you remember Steve Bannon's fake wall? His co-conspirators got convicted. Donald Trump pardoned Steve Bannon. They say, oh, we're gonna build a wall. Ha ha ha, watch these idiots, they'll all give us their money. The people who trust us the most are the ones we're gonna rob the most. So give us your money and we'll build a wall. We're not gonna build a wall. And then they went and just were on a yacht and spent all this money on themselves, etc. And Bannon laughed his ass off at who? Democrats? No. Republican voters who were, unfortunately, trusted him. And look, this is what all of them do. You got George Santos. Now this is Marjorie Taylor's campaign manager. It goes on and on. Of course, the granddaddy of them all, Donald Trump. So let me quickly read you things that people have conveniently forgotten. So remember, Donald Trump had a fake university. Just pause and think about that. He ran a fake scam university. It wasn't a university at all. Now, if you're MAGA out there, like, oh yeah, right, there's no way, man. How would you feel if you know that Donald Trump actually admitted it? So let's tell you what happened. Lawyers filed 3 separate lawsuits from 2010 to 2013 against Trump University for, among other claims, deceptive practices. Donald Trump has agreed to pay a $25 million settlement to the people who attended Trump University in 07, 08, 09, and 2010. He's like, he admitted he ran a scam and he conned these poor people who believed in him. He says the same thing every time. He's like, oh, these people gave me money. They were big banks and they said, let me set up casinos and stuff. So of course I robbed them. And when it came time to pay them, I didn't pay my bills. I declared bankruptcy. That's smart business. And MAGA's like, yeah, way to rob the people who trusted you, right? And then people trusted him on a university. He robbed them. By the way, when he started getting campaign donations from you guys, from MAGA, he then increased his rent by 500% in Trump Tower. And said, oh yeah, my campaign is renting all of this office space in Trump Tower. And conveniently, just now, it went up 500%. Why? Because he's like, bunch of suckers and losers actually believe me. Can you believe that they believe me? And so he started robbing you. He didn't rob the left. No skin off my ass. You want to keep trusting him, go for it. But if you're going to give to a charity of a Republican, be really careful, because I'm going to get one more thing for you. Remember Trump's charity, he also had one of those. President Trump has paid $2 million to 8 charities as part of a settlement in which the president admitted he misused funds raised by Donald J. Trump Foundation to promote his presidential bid and pay off business debts. So that story has so much wrongdoing in it. He got a $10,000 picture of himself. And he's just such a terrible, terrible person. He ripped off veterans, pretending that he was gonna give the money that he raised in a campaign event to veterans. And then when they sued him over his fake charity, he's like, all right, fine, I'll give some of the money to the veterans. But which charities did he rip off? I got that for you. Last one, the nonprofit groups that received payments were the Army Emergency Relief. Wow, he ripped them off. Oh, he loves veterans, does he? The Children's Aid Society, he's robbing little kids. That's who this guy is. City Meals on Wheels, robbing the poor, of course. Give an Hour, Martha's Table, the United Negro College Fund. He was pretending that he was on black people's side while robbing them. The United Way of the National Capital Area and the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum each received a total of $476,000. So these are the folks that he's, oh yeah, I'm so charitable. I'm a big giving person. Give me the money. I robbed them. I robbed the people going to the Holocaust Museum. I robbed them. Black people, I robbed them. Poor people, I robbed them. Oh, the people who trusted me, Republicans, I robbed them the most. Remember, these are all settlements where he agreed. Yes, he was a con man who ran a fake charity, a fake university. He has robbed Republicans blind. That is why his top advisor, Steve Bannon, was like, oh, great idea. I'll do a robbery. I'll do a fake wall. I'll rob them. Now Marjorie Taylor Greene's campaign manager. Oh, we're all doing robberies. And it turns out, well, our guys are the biggest suckers. And think about it, guys. Look at all the right-wing media hosts. What do they sell? Penis pills, brain pills, gold, bunkers, etc. They all think you're suckers and they're robbing you from now till eternity. Please wake up, Franny.
Yeah, and I think there's something particularly insidious about fundraising and robbing the people of East Palestine, robbing food banks, because that was an issue that the MAGA world, Trump included, Marjorie Taylor Greene included, was like, ooh, this is our issue. It's a rural town, largely white, let's go. We can sort of fudge the stuff about like corporate power and and all that. Like, even though we totally won't vote for like any kind of infrastructure bills, and we won't actually oversee, regulating the railroads, and we'll absolutely vote to break the strike, just like so many did when it came to the railway workers. Like, we'll just use this, right? And we'll do our little faux populism, our right-wing populism. And lo and behold, no, they're scamming the people who've been on the receiving end of one of the worst corporate climate disasters, toxic chemical disasters in our history. And so there you have it. It's just, it's so perfect, and you're totally right. George Santos, who? Like, I'm sorry, like you can't blame a Republican for trying, right? Like, cause like they're all doing it this much higher level. And just to say, Marjorie Greene was on and on and on about, where are the environmentalists? Where are they speaking out about this? Like all over the place. We covered it on this progressive network over and over and over again, and we continue to do so. Like, people were talking about it and it actually helped out. No, they were fake fundraising off of it, and they won't have to answer for that at all. But I'm glad these guys are actually gonna have to pay.
Look, last thing I'll say is, why doesn't anybody ever go to prison over this stuff? I mean, you're gonna rob people in this brazen way. Guy has an issue with a $20 bill and we choke him out and kill him in the street, right? But these guys steal $25 million at a time like Trump did with Trump University. Nobody ever goes to prison. That's why Trump is so shocked that right now he's being charged with crimes. He's like, what? I've been a lifelong criminal. You don't remember when I ripped off the Holocaust Museum and the little kids and the veterans? And I didn't get charged for that. Why am I'm in the elites? Why am I all of a sudden being charged with crimes? I thought we could rob people all day long. And so I'm not surprised that these other Republicans try to rob the people of East Palestine. Just be careful, man. It's your money. It's your money. Be careful with these thugs and criminals. And what happened with these guys and with Trump? They just, and by the way, with almost every big business, like all the businesses that rip people off, and then all of a sudden, like Rick Scott's former company, the senator from Florida, another Republican, biggest Medicare fraud in American history. And what happened? They pay a small fine, or in their case, it was a giant fine, but it was only still a small portion of what they had robbed from Medicare. They always pay a little tax out of their ill-gotten goods, and then they're free to go. Rick Scott's not in jail, Trump's not in jail, these guys aren't in jail. So look, again, Republicans, you want to get robbed, that's your business. As a friend, as a fellow citizen, and I would urge you to have caution, but if you don't want it, sure, give your money away to incredibly rich people and have them laugh at you behind your back. Okay, we gotta go, yeah. All right, everybody check out Bituation Room. That's Franny's podcast on the TYT network. Everybody check out Damage Report, John's show, which Francesca's also on. Franny, go ahead.
And if you guys are in San Francisco or the Bay Area, October 17th, which is a Tuesday, I'll be doing stand up with my husband, Matt Lieb, also a comedian. So get tickets, Live Nation, at SF Punchline, wherever, just Google it. My Instagram.
Nice.
I'll see you there.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. When educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power, it makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America.
Listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
Drop it. All right, power panel. Cenk Uygur, Ray Vana, Mondale Robinson with you guys. Mondale and Ray are both on Rebel headquarters. Make sure you're checking them out there. They do some great videos on there. And as you guys might know, Mondale's also the mayor of Enfield, North Carolina, which is kind of fun, and a founder of Black Male Voter Project. All right. Oh, I forgot to ask, who's going first?
Who's on first?
Mondale.
Who's on first?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, since Mondale and Ray are both presenting, that's why I was asking. Okay, Mondale's up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys, it seems like somebody forgot to tell Christie that Republicans don't say the thing that we all know is the thing out loud. Check out the video.
Why would you send Jared Kushner to the Middle East when you have Rex Tillerson and Mike Pompeo as secretaries of state? Two incredibly accomplished men. You send him, why? We found out the answer 6 months after he left office. $2 billion.
My. So while Christie does a great job explaining to us that Jared shouldn't have been the one doing diplomacy in the Middle East, I don't think I'm ready, or none of us should be ready to hail Chris Christie as the rebellious Republican. As we all know, he was a part of the movement that put Trump in office in the first place, and he spent a lot of time defending Trump when he was first elected. That is, of course, until he decided that he might have a window to run against Trump. And even in this statement, we watch Chris Christie fall short. Let's play this part so everybody can see him fall.
From the Saudis to Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, $2 billion. And because he did all this and more with his family, he's normalizing this conduct, and now we have another president who's doing exactly the same thing and allowing Hunter Biden to run roughshod, making money from foreign governments and selling access to Joe Biden.
Yeah, still giving me that Bridgegate Chris Christie look and feel. And it seemed like he's not quite ready to be or do or say everything that's truthful, as he minced his words and caved to the political party of Republicans and also politics of the day. We literally watched him say something that he knows is factually not true. He said, now we have another president doing the same thing, and that Biden was allowing Hunter to make money off foreign governments and run roughshod. Christie is lying. He's simply nodding and winking to the Republican base that he's not completely gone, but he's an alternative to those who are tired of Donald Trump's shenanigans and also establishment politicians like Biden. But here's the problem. It's this level of bowing out, it's this level of counting to the Republican base that's ruining our democracy. And so while so many folks have so many problems with Republican, Chris Christie just showed what is really going on in Washington. Christie knows that Biden, Joe Biden, or Hunter Biden is not under investigation for anything that happened since Joe Biden has been president. Not one thing, none of it. But he still was comfortable in saying that the same thing is happening. Hunter Biden is not an advisor to the president. Hunter Biden is not going on missions for this administration. So Chris Christie willing to say this and show up in this manner is absolutely disgusting. Cenk and Ray, I definitely want to hear from both of you on this, but I think it's an important point that we remember people or remind people that is so much going on right now. We just watched a special counsel get announced in the Hunter Biden trial for Merrick Garland, and I think if we are serious about our democracy and serious about what it means to be a leader and hold people accountable, Chris Christie can't show up in this way where you say one thing right and so many other things wrong. Because I feel like he just got it wrong right there, especially as we watch an impeachment about. And we'll play this last clip and then we'll bring you two in. This impeachment about this president about to start taking shape in this Republican Party.
I think anytime you take something this serious, you've got to have facts behind it. Anytime you want to do something in impeachment, we're like the grand jury. We have to make the case to make the indictment. You don't just put something on the floor and say, okay, impeach somebody. This is one of the most serious things you can do as a member of Congress. And I think you've got to go through the process. You've got to have the investigation. And throwing something on the floor actually harms the investigation that we're doing right now. And I don't want to do anything to harm the investigation. Every day we get some new information.
Yeah, and what people might not understand is this is McCarthy replying to his party. He's basically trying to tamp them down on this idea that impeachment is just an investigative tool, something that is small, something to be played with, which is a different tune than they were singing when Donald Trump was last impeached. So, Cenk, I would love to hear what you got to say about your good friends on the conservative side.
Yeah, very good friends. So first, let's start with Chris Christie. He's a mixed bag. So I'm with Mondale on the Hunter situation. So look, we've said this 1,000 times on the show. Hunter Biden is not a Ukrainian gas expert and one of the most renowned artists in the country. It's absurd. He's abusing his last name. We all get that, right? But that's not the question. The question is it connected to Joe Biden? Because Hunter Biden's a rando. And so if you want to punish him for that, go ahead. Well, whatever laws he might have broken or not broken, I don't really care at all, right? But I would care a lot if he was affecting policy. Like, for example, if he was in charge of our entire Middle Eastern policy, like Jared Kushner was. But he wasn't. And in fact, on his golden laptop that they think is the greatest, most important political thing in the world, he says, we cannot control my dad, so let's make sure we don't promise that. So how many times have right-wing media told you that about the laptop? No, they made it seem like the laptop's terrible. They didn't explain to you that it actually shows that Joe Biden was not involved. Okay, but let's say that you're in that crowd and you want Christie to hit Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. The biggest allegation was, and totally not true, of course, they bring in the guy, there's no evidence, it's secondhand and he doesn't even believe it, etc. But the allegation is Hunter Biden took 5 million, Joe Biden took 5 million. Well, then you go to Christie's second point about Jared Kushner. Wait a minute, he took 2 billion. He took 2 billion from the Saudis. Now there were rumors, by the way, that the national security apparatus did not want Jared Kushner to have clearance because of the information he gave the Saudis that he wasn't supposed to give, okay? And that information could have affected a lot of people's lives. And then, hey, look at that, afterwards the Saudis invest $2 billion in Jared Kushner. By the way, Jared Kushner is a failed real estate investor. He had 666 Fifth Avenue is considered maybe the worst real estate investment in the history of America. That was Jared Kushner, and the Saudis are like, oh, it is not because he gave us all of these favors while he was in office. We think he is a wonderful investor. That is why we gave him $2 billion. Meanwhile, the Live Golf tournament is happening. And then they went and bought the PGA. Who's that? Oh, the Saudis, who has tons of golf properties. In fact, his main source of income, which Live is now using, and the PGA will soon use at a much higher level. Oh, right, Donald J. Trump. So now tens of millions of dollars get funneled to Donald Trump, yet nobody talks about it. So I like that at least Christie brought that up. And by the way, Democrats, do you exist? Is anyone running against Donald Trump on the Democratic Party side? So RFK Jr. isn't talking about any of that because all he ever does is agree with Donald Trump. No one, Marianne Williams is a great candidate. No one listens to her though. The media goes, don't ever listen to her, she's a progressive. And Joe Biden is sitting in a cave somewhere deep in slumber. Up and at him, Joe. You're the candidate. You're supposed to make some of these points and not leave it to a Republican to make it where he does the mixed messages that Mondale referred to. But God forbid, Joe Biden should be bothered to run against a Republican. All right, I've got more, but Ray, weigh in.
Yeah, so first I'll just say I think that the Republicans have really overestimated the sticking power of framing Joe Biden and his family as corrupt and pinning it all on Hunter Biden, because I think they're really underestimating how many Americans have a fail son in their family, how many of us have, just to put it bluntly, an F-up relative who, we try to help and you can't help but love them and you want the best for them, but they just keep getting themselves into new stuff. They just keep stepping in it. They, no matter what resources you offer them, they're not getting out of the difficult life that they're living. So I think it actually, the fact that Joe Biden has, through all of this time, continued to love and support his son, I think it actually plays the other way than Republicans are expecting it to. So that's the first thing. Second thing, for Christie, the man who fraudulently shut down an entire New Jersey beach so that his family could enjoy it alone, to stand there and talk about, corrupt actions. Come on, man. And then to compare, to even sort of frame Joe Biden as this like financially corrupt person, this man who is in, and I don't agree with the things he did, and I don't agree with most of his politics. But I mean, this is a man who was in the Senate for 3 decades and was so poor that he had to borrow money to help pay for his son's cancer treatment. After that, I mean, this is somebody who, given every opportunity to be raking in the money, I mean, we see these people become senators and then their finances just skyrocket. They become uber wealthy. Joe Biden, that hasn't happened for him. So it's just so difficult to pitch him as the corrupt candidate, especially when he's running against Donald Trump. And I think that they're missing the politics on this. They're way off the mark. But if they want to keep on it, it only benefits me. It benefits those of us who don't want Donald Trump to be president again.
Yeah, I think both of you are spot on, especially if we consider the fact that how far off do you have to be to consider that Joe Biden, like you said, and I'm glad you brought this up, Ray. This man went home every night in Washington, D.C. to Delaware by Amtrak. So much so that he didn't even have a house in DC like every senator does. And on top of that, when he was the vice president, he was about to sell his house because he couldn't afford it, but Barack Obama paid it off for him. People don't even know that the president paid off this man's house when he was vice president. So that is something that speaks to his character and this idea that he's part of a crime mob. When we see Donald Trump acting as such, and we see, like you said, Christie using his governorship to shut down an entire beach for his family's sake. It just doesn't ring true. I think also Hayes Brown did a wonderful job in a piece for the MSNBC online portal when he wrote that this feels like an important time to highlight the notable lack of evidence that anything the president or his team have done would clear the Constitution bar of high crimes and misdemeanors for impeachment. Republicans have put on months of hearings that have led nowhere and produced a string of supposed star witness whose testimony has fallen flat in impeachable offenses. The same is true of Garland and Mayorkas. And I think it's also important to point out, yes, Hayes make a great point, but knowing and seeing what happened today in the light of the announcement by Mayor Garland, I think it's important that we add that especially the testimony of Archer, who was an associate of Hunter Biden, that was supposed to be this bombshell testimony, and it turned out to be nothing. It turned out to be a dud. The guy got up there and said Biden didn't talk about business, only talked about family and family. That's it. Like, this is what he does. And the weather. This sounds like Biden being Biden. Old, tired, and want to talk about family and how much he loves them. So this idea that you had this bombshell witness who didn't know anything or didn't know anything about Biden talking about business shows that we in this country found ourselves in a space where we have no Democrats willing to stand up to that party of Donald Trump, where we are pushing and forcing special counsels in cases that don't need to have special counsels. Because this is not a case that a liberal justice brought or a liberal justice department brought. This happened under, talking about the Hunter Biden case, it happened under Donald Trump's administration. It was 2018 when this investigation started and nothing came from it. So this idea that we can relive this sounds just like Kevin McCarthy knowing what he did to Hillary Clinton with the Benghazi. This is the same thing. So I think, we sit here right now depending on Republicans like Chris Christie and some of those who are in shady or districts that Biden won to do the part that the Democrats are supposed to be doing. And Jink, we're not gonna get that from them. I don't think you can scare these Republicans enough to hold their colleagues accountable. What about you all?
Yeah, no way. So last couple of things for me. I mean, look, you can tell how disingenuous they are because of Kevin McCarthy's big ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene, introduced impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden on day one when he hadn't done anything yet. I mean, talk about showing your hand. They're like, we don't care about facts, we don't care about evidence, we don't care that he didn't do anything wrong, we don't like the guy, we're just gonna impeach him because of our feelings. And so you can tell who's dishonest. That's just a brazen dishonesty. And that right there is a great summary of the Republican Party today. I think the real corruption comes in campaign contributions, but the Republicans, of course, don't want to talk about that because they take just as much as the Democrats do. And finally, I agree with Rayvon. Every family has a screw up, and so does the Trump family. And his name is Donald J. Trump.
What do you say?
Yeah, I'll just say that I think that impeachment was an important political tool for the Democrats when they weren't, when we didn't have the presidency, because it played really well with not just their core base, but a broad constituency of the American public. And I'm not saying that Americans by and large are satisfied with Joe Biden's presidency. I think polls have shown that the opposite is true, but it's not in the same brazen way that they were unhappy with Donald Trump as president, right? It's not, the same sense of urgency, the same sense of fear of our future under Joe Biden that it was under Donald Trump. It's not, the fear that we're gonna wake up and turn on the news and World War III is going to have started. Speaking broadly in the way that people, particularly less politically engaged people, view this sort of politics. So I think, again, I know I said this already, but I think they're really missing the mark on the politics. I'm sure this will play well with their core core base. But I think that they have more considerations to make, especially considering that the midterm elections didn't go for them the way that they expected to. So I think that this continuing, hard move to the right is not going to benefit them. And again, I'm fine with that. I am more than fine with the Republicans tripping themselves constantly.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to remind people that the Republican Party is not set on growing its party or its membership. Is simply trying to prevent anybody that don't agree with them from voting, or in this case, even living or being free citizen. I think that's a wonderful time for us to, speaking of freedom, to go to the next story.
Yeah, actually, we got to take a break. So the wonderful time. The wonderful time will come right after the break. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT. Let's go to YouTube members here. Prop says, if Jon Stewart ran for president, I wouldn't think twice about voting for him and his vice. I think, you speak for a lot of people. Look, the country wants someone other than Joe Biden or Donald Trump, but the two political parties are not getting it. And so it's ripe for someone popular to run and win this thing. But nobody wants to do it. And part of the reason they don't want to do it is because people watch too much mainstream media. And so they're worried that if they run against Biden, it's a crime against humanity, right? It isn't. That's what primaries are for. Ellie Void wrote in, Mondale and Ray, my favorites, I love you. So glad to see them on TYT. Thank you, TYT, for bringing them on. So that's very lovely of Ellie. David Morris writes in, great point, Mondale. While not a monster like Trump, Christie is still a damn joke. Explore Infinity points out that Christie took a knee for Trump in 2015. That is very true. Christie's basically a standard politician. He's like, oh, I think Donald Trump might help me. I might become his vice president. I love Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump didn't help me. Boo. I hate Donald Trump. Okay, but at least he's making the case against Donald Trump, which is more than you can say for any of the Democrats. Taryn Tots writes in, that was just a tip the Saudis gave Jared, LOL. Yes, the Saudis have so much money. I mean, they give him $1 billion to a soccer player, right? So $2 billion to Jared Kushner, tens of millions to Donald Trump through the golf tournaments. It's nothing, it's a drop in their oil bucket. Now we go to Twitch, Ironman42 writes in, no, I'm sorry, they gifted 2 tier 1 subs because they're awesome. They've given 304 overall, that's amazing. Samantha GK gifted a total of 7 to the channel and 1 today. We appreciate you. Spoiled PD says Jank for president. Be careful what you wish for. Janine123 writes in, hey Jank, is your book going to be available for e-readers or do I need to buy the actual book? No, there's an e-reader version. Go to tyt.com/justice. I think a lot of people have actually bought that. So thank you, we appreciate it. By the way, let's get on that bestseller list. If a progressive makes it on, there's gonna be more progressive books. And it is enormously possible, okay? It's coming out in about a month, tyt.com/justice. Power and Reset, wow, gifting 33 subs on Twitch. Given total of 2,000 to the channel. That is unbelievable, thank you. Dave Smith 311, another legend, gifted 2 more. They've given 945 overall. These are amazing people. Dragon Mage Queen gifted 2, they've gifted 49 overall. Just a wonderful, wonderful community. King of Heart 2005 says, always keeping it fair, calling out the red or the blue. 20 years of watching from this household. We remember the Solo Jank Ranch show. Thank you guys, 20 years you've been with us, amazing, we love you for it, love you. And I am almost out of time. Yeah, no, I'm out, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Mondale, and Ray with you guys. Also, Inquiring Gorilla, a fun handle that just joined, and Questing for the Quest. Lots of fun handles today. Guys, thank you for joining. You could do likewise if you hit the join button below the video on YouTube. You could also do it on tyt.com/join. All right, Mondale's got the next story for us.
Listen, Cenk love y'all so much, he interrupted me to take a break so he can read your comments. He's committed to you all. But talk about commitment or the lack thereof. This next story is not funny. Let's roll with it.
I was scared.
And the criminal charges that landed her in a Detroit detention center earlier this year, devastating.
I was going through a panic attack.
Portia Woodruff says she was 8 months pregnant back in February. That's when a group of Detroit police officers showed up to her home, saying she was being arrested for carjacking and robbery. Serious crimes Woodruff and her attorney Ivan Land say she never committed.
This is sickening.
According to a lawsuit they just filed against the city of Detroit and a police detective, Woodruff claims the investigators' use of faulty facial recognition technology led to her wrongful arrest.
And just like we knew, and just like we said, police departments should not be using facial recognition because it's just going to exacerbate the racial profiling problems that already exist in this country. Who can imagine what level of trauma must she have been going through? Think about this, to know that she was being arrested while being noticeably, she was 8 months pregnant, y'all, 8 months pregnant. And if that isn't enough, she was being arrested for committing an armed robbery at a place she had never been to. Not once had she ever visited the location. So we ask, if she's never been there, how did the authorities get a photo of her? How were they able to find her? How were they able to deduct that she was indeed their carjacking suspect? How, you ask, Mondale? Well, check it out.
According to the lawsuit, the victim's stolen cell phone was returned back here to this gas station. Detectives also picked up surveillance video here, but Woodruff says she's never even visited this place. Land says DPD's facial recognition tools found a 7-year-old photo of Woodruff. They say the carjacking victim, who told police he'd been drinking, picked Woodruff's photo in a lineup. Land said the detective ignored the fact Woodruff was noticeably pregnant.
They're not equipped to deal with facial recognition.
Now, Ray, you know damn well this is a scene right out of every mother or soon-to-be mother's nightmare catalog. The lack of care for anyone involved in this situation is so apparent. No pun intended. First, the fact that the gentleman that was robbed told the police he had been drinking says a lot. And I can only assume how that conversation went. Oh, officer, I can't really pick her out. I've had a few drinks. And on top of that, when has it been okay that we've started allowing cops to use virtual lineups to pick people out, coupled with the facts and the words of a drunk man? What is going on? This is never gonna be okay. We especially know and understand the technology that is that of facial profiling. We know it. We know that they don't use blackface to create these algorithms. So when they see them, we know that they look like strangers and they are already setting off alerts. So the idea that an institution talking about policing in America is given this tool to do nothing but profile people without their consent, people will continue to be in these situations. Ray, tell me why Blue Lives Matter. Please make me understand how this is good policing.
Well, I would just say that they don't. I'll also, just add, I mean, none of us can, I'm sure that there's people out there, but none of us specifically can imagine the horror that this woman had to endure while 8 months pregnant, noticeably pregnant, being, arrested by the police. And thinking in that moment that she might have to give birth to her child in a prison hospital and then be separated from her baby at the beginning of its life for a crime she absolutely didn't do, for a period of time where she didn't even know why they were trying to arrest her. I'll also add that studies have shown that facial recognition software is particularly ineffective as it pertains to registering black faces, because a lot of the teams that design these facial recognition programs have no black computer science engineers on the teams. So this sort of, AI computer or facial recognition software could easily just use another black person's face because they have not really been designed to recognize darker skinned individuals. So, I mean, there's so many ways that this could go wrong. And we already have a systemically racist institution of policing. So just to add another racist element into it and I mean, it's horrifying. So now not only do Black Americans have to be afraid that the police are gonna shoot them for minding their own business, now they have to be afraid that a computer is gonna tell them to go and find them, to seek them out in the comfort of their own homes, to do it even more. I mean, it's mortifying.
Yeah, look, I'll give you some anecdotal stuff and then, but Ray's right. The studies have already shown that they misidentify people of color more. And so this is very problematic. So look, I've lived in New Jersey where I would often be greeted with Paisan. I've lived in Miami where people were offended I didn't speak Spanish because they were positive I was Cuban. Lived in LA where they're positive I'm Persian. And even before I got a tiny bit of fame, everybody would always say, you look like my cousin. You look like someone I know. This is not a great way to do policing. Jimmy Yang's a great comic. He was in Crazy Rich Asians, Silicon Valley. He has a couple of jokes about it on his show. Where he says he looks like Aquafina, he jokes around about that, and then he has a great little thing about how he mistook two white people for that are very similar looking actresses, etc. Look, I know you don't need the anecdotes because you know it in your own life. People look alike, and you also know it because of the studies. So we got to do real policing. This facial recognition software, pulling innocent people aside because a computer thinks they might be someone else, is a problem for all of us, but it turns out, unfortunately, like a lot of things, particularly for minorities.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't even need to pretend that this is news or new news, right? Because 3 years ago, ACLU and other grassroots organizations were already screaming about this problem and how bad it was gonna go. We knew that facial recognition was not the way to go as it pertains to creating a healthy relationship between communities of color and police. We knew that. So check out what we saw right here. Alex Hijib for Harvard already told us we unlock our iPhones with a glance and wonder how Facebook knew to tag us in a photo. But face recognition, the technology behind these features is more than just a gimmick. It is employed for law enforcement, surveillance, airport passenger screening, and employment and housing decisions. That's disgusting. Despite widespread adoption, face recognition was banned for use by police and local agencies in several cities, including Boston and San Francisco. Why? Because of all of the dominant biometrics in use, fingerprint, iris, palm, voice, and face. Face recognition is the least accurate and it's rife with privacy concerns. And I think, Jink, you and Rage did a wonderful job of laying those out. Like, what are we doing when we're saying, somebody can walk up to you and say, you look like my cousin, or you look like the person that just robbed me, even though you have an 8-month baby growing inside of you and that person didn't. It's enough for me to get a warrant and arrest you for armed robbery. It is absolutely scary that we find ourselves at this problem. And then the problem is only made more true when you have darker skin. The same article about Harvard also quotes a study done by Gender Shades Project, and that study revealed some damning information. Face recognition algorithm boasts high classification of accuracy, over 90% allegedly. But these outcomes are not universal. A growing body of research exposed divergent error rates across demographics with the poorest accuracy, of course, as we knew, consistently found in subjects who are female, Black, and 18 to 30-year-olds. This article further states that in landmark study in the same state project, an intersectional approach was applied to these 3 gender classification algorithms, including those developed by IBM and Microsoft. And guess what they found? Just what you both said. So we don't need this anecdotal, but it's important to say it because people will say, Jink's just saying that, Ray's just saying that. But we found that darker skinned females, darker skinned males have more likely to be mischaracterized than lighter skinned people. And if we're talking about the female, like the woman in this case, she's 34% more likely to be wrongly identified than a lighter skinned male. That means if you are a Black woman, you are 34% more likely to be misidentified than a white male. Jink, why are our police departments using this technology? Why?
Yeah. So look, they obviously shouldn't. This one's kind of an open and shut case. That doesn't mean they're going to stop. It just means that it's clearly not fair and not the right way to go. Again, for all races, but particularly in how it affects minorities. But guys, it's not just law enforcement. Listen to what Mondale just told you. Like at least in law enforcement, you get your day in court and you get a lawyer, etc. If they're using this in employment and housing, you're never even going to know that they discriminated against you while they thought you were a completely different person. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say that like so many other things that the police employ, other practices that they're not supposed to but do. I'm actually really surprised that she was aware that they used the facial recognition software, because I was sure that they would be trying as possible, because I was just writing a paper at the end of law school about a case where the police employed a special technology that was illegal for them to use. They knew it was illegal for them to use, so they did everything they possibly could to bury their usage of it. We know that they've been using this technology even in places where they're not supposed to. We know that they will continue to. So it's important, when organizations like the ACLU bring these lawsuits, that we can have, stricter standards for them and actual repercussions when they are found out to be using something we all have known and still know they absolutely should not be using, for not just its level of inaccuracy, but for the total invasion of our privacy.
Yeah, great
point. I think it's those are great points. I think it's also important to know that this was a perfect storm. How many cases have we not caught these police in doing this, right? We know it was a perfect storm in that they used a picture that was 7 years old. So she's probably started asking questions. I've never been there. How they get this picture? And I think her lawyer probably put 2 and 2 together, because you're right. They definitely try to cover this up. Definitely something we should definitely keep an eye out for.
All right, we got to take another break here. When we come back, among the things we got for you guys is Republicans are now saying some cereals are too sexy. Interesting. Let's find out. All right, back on TYT. First of all, I want to tell you about Rashad's show on Sirius. You should check it out every weekend. It's on Urban View. Dr. Rashad Ritchie, of course, host of Indisputable on the TYT network, the host of the fastest growing show in media. He's also has a Sirius XM show. It's a Sundays at 1 o'clock Eastern on Urban View. Make sure you're checking that out. Check out our podcasting network, which I've told you about. Of course, anywhere you get podcasts, that's easy. Our newsletter is pretty much the only progressive newsletter and loved by so many people who read it. Give it a shot yourself. TYT.com/newsletter, or use that QR code right there. You get out the phone, take the picture there. Oh, there it is. Okay, and guys, we've gotten 25 billion views over our lifetime, and that is because of you guys, the members. membership actually sustained us all the way back in 2005 and 2006. Several times we were on the edge of going under, and members saved us every single time. So this show is yours, this network is yours. tyt.com/join to become a member. All right, speaking of which, let's go to member section real quick. I'm out of here, wrote in, ironically still here. I agree that you should do a book tour, Cenk. I pre-ordered your book before I found out you were selling signed copies. I will have you sign it in person, can't wait to meet you. Hint, Tucson, Arizona. So guys, whether I do a book tour or not, and there's one in Powerhouse Arena in Brooklyn on the 22nd, you can go to that one at tyt.com/events. But I'll be in your neck of the woods at some point. You bring a book, I will of course sign it for you, okay? So don't worry about that. Wang Jun says, some members have gifted so many subs that I think I deserve a reward. Okay, I like your way of thinking. Biden flavored Corn Pop says, the one and only Mayor Mondale Robinson, yes. Lord, he on it. I'm not gonna read it that way. Ray Fana and he who rules, Cenk. Okay, but we love you. Sina Hogaboon writes in, the mayor's on point, Ray Fana is rocking the info. Oh yeah, Cenk is here too, breaking it down. Much love, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Ravana, and Mondale with you guys. Mondale and Ray are both on Rebel headquarters. Make sure you're checking that out where you're on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever else you get it. All right, Ray's got the next story.
Yeah, so if your doctor has suggested that you stay on a woke-free diet, you might need to stay away from Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts, because ex-senior advisor to Trump, Stephen Miller's group America First Legal is taking aim at, as they branded, woke Kellogg's, claiming the company is engaging in illegal race-based discrimination. And if you were wondering, yes, they are claiming it's discrimination against white people. And they're claiming that Kellogg's is attempting to politicize and sexualize their products. So let's get into some of the details. From HuffPost, the conservative legal group announced that it filed a federal civil rights complaint with the US EEOC. The group called on the EEOC to investigate Kellogg's Co.'s policies and programs that it described as infused with woke ideology. Can I get woke ideology infused in my morning coffee at Starbucks? I bet they would say that I could. In a letter to the EEOC on Wednesday, America First Legal senior counselor Reed D. Rubenstein claimed that Kellogg's engages in unlawful employment practices by seeking to balance its workforce based on race, color, national origin, and sex. From that same article, the letter went on to note a number of diversity initiatives at the company, including one that strives to have 25% of underrepresented talent at the management level by the end of 2025. The letter also stated concerns with the fellowship program for Black chefs at Kellogg's and what the company has described as an aspirational goal of gender 50-50 parity at the management level by the end of 2025. So equal opportunity is a bad thing. They want the Equal Opportunity Commission to intervene in this. I mean, it's very funny, but their other claim is that the employment practices are unlawfully based on equity, which it described as a euphemism for illegal discrimination. Oh my God. Now, this isn't the first time conservative activists have cried racial discrimination, again, against white people. From Reuters, the founders of a venture capital fund devoted to funding Black women-owned businesses on Thursday defended their efforts to support underrepresented entrepreneurs in the face of a lawsuit by a conservative activist accusing it of racial discrimination. And just by the way, the people making these accusations, they don't actually want to benefit from these programs. They just want to make sure that Black women, Black men don't benefit from these programs. But according to the Fearless Fund, women of color business founders in 2022 received only 0.39% of the $288 billion that venture capital firms deployed. The fund aims to remedy that and counts as investors JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and MasterCard. The lawsuit was by the American Alliance for Equal Rights, a group founded by activist Edward Bloom, who through another organization pursued the cases against Harvard University and University of North Carolina that led the Supreme Court in June to end affirmative action in higher education. The lawsuit alleged the fund unlawfully allowed only Black women small business owners to be eligible for a competition that awards $20K in grants and other resources. But that aside, let's get back to cereal and why it's so damn sexy lately. Now, the cries of racial discrimination, like we said, were not the only letter that America First Legal sent. In another letter that they sent to Kellogg's CEO, Steve Callahan, they claimed Kellogg's company management has hijacked the brand to advance an extreme political and social agenda. From that letter, despite the immense trust that hardworking American mothers and fathers have placed in Kellogg's, management has discarded the company's long-held family-friendly marketing approach to politicize and sexualize its products. Now, American First Legal went on to refer to several products and partnerships, including a Together with Pride cereal featuring the Frosted Mini Wheats mascot holding a pride flag, because of course homophobes, the first thing they think of when they see gay people is gay sex. They think about it more than gay people do. Now they said that Cheez-It boxes with RuPaul and Snooki were too sexy. And they said that neon pink Block Party lemonade Pop-Tarts and all together cereal flavored lip balm was also included in this. And we can't forget Tony the Tiger's red carpet appearance with Dylan Mulvaney in June. Now, we know that the company's larger concern is actually the money. Now, they're saying that these promotions are hurting its shareholders. They said this in a series of tweets. The first one saying, Kellogg's management has also shown disdain and disregard for company shareholders. It admits that its brand reputation requires careful promotion and protection, yet it fails to properly warn investors of the risks associated with the apparent misalignment of management's political and social values with Kellogg's customers' values, or describe the steps taken to mitigate them. Newsflash, most people support gay rights, so that's probably not true. But anyway, they continue on. Kellogg's is yet another big corporation that will break the law and hurt its shareholders and interests to serve the twisted woke ideology of its officers. Sorry, I'm sorry, just reading. It's a cereal company, for God's sakes. The twisted woke ideology of its officers and directors like Disney, Budweiser, and Target. Kellogg's management has shown nothing but contempt and disdain for American families and American workers. And you know, guys, I'm at a loss because I thought conservatives were upset that, you know, products weren't sexy enough. I'm sure everybody remembers this Tucker Carlson moment.
The green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. Now she's wearing sensible sneakers. Leading women to wear frumpy shoes. The frumpier, the better. That's the rule. The other big change is that the brown M&M has, quote, transitioned from high stilettos to lower block heels. Also less sexy. That's progress. M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off, we've achieved equity. They've won.
So first they're upset that they can no longer have sex with an M&M, and now they're upset that they want to have sex with a box of cereal. Cenk, what the hell is going on?
Well, maybe it melted in his hand. I don't know. Okay. So, but I love how they betray themselves because they're like, RuPaul's way too sexy. You got to get her off that box. It's too sexy. I wonder why you're actually upset. By the way, Snooki, why is Snooki involved in this controversy? I don't know. Is she LGBTQ? I don't even know that she is. Why did she get dragged into this? They're like, plus these people that are from the Jersey Shore. Do you really want them influencing your kids? Actually, that's a decent point. I grew up on the Jersey Shore. Maybe that's not the best role model. Anyway, look, guys, just when I thought they couldn't get any more absurd, they're like, Cocoa Pebbles. Why isn't it White Pebbles, huh? And Fred Flintstone looks curiously similar to Cenk Uygur. Next thing you know, they're gonna be like, tricks? Why are they only for kids? Anyway, seriously, guys. Is there any serious part of this? Okay, look at what they're complaining about. So one is on the cereal. The other one that Ray mentioned is that folks trying to get money to black women running companies. It's venture capital money. They're investing. Like if they make the investment, they think they're going to make more money in return. And people are trying to help those folks get. And how many? What was the percentage? It was about 0.3% of venture capital money goes to black women. And they said too much. Stephen Miller Group's like, no, too much. It should be 0.2%, 0.1%. What is it enough for you? So it's beyond absurd. Mondale.
Listen, a couple truths that we must acknowledge. You look strangely like Fred Flintstone, Jake. First.
Come on, Barney.
Secondly, which Eminem does Tucker want to have a beer with? Like, which one is he sexually attracted to? Like, I'm confused by that. The idea that he said the point is to make them not sexy or appealing at all, brother. You need someone to talk to you about. I listen. Here's my problem. I am done with this idea that people can't have a political ideology and also own a company because they don't care about people preventing gay couples from getting flowers for their wedding. They don't care about that at all. They just care about policies that they don't agree with, and it's tacky.
Yeah, so we're out of time, so I'm gonna end on yabba dabba doo. Okay, now in the post-game bonus episode for you guys, a Trump judge orders religious training. We'll explain, tyt.com/join, or hit that join button below on YouTube. We'll see you there.
You know, old school was pitched to me from Cenk. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week.